Hi, I'm the Jonin Monkey, he's Sven the Crusader, and this show was recorded on the 5th of April 2019.
Prediction Paradox!
This is a brand new section which I decided to leap upon because of this unique opportunity. As Sven has hinted to many times, April is a big month for wrestling, because this is traditionally the event known as Wrestlemania, WWE's biggest show of the year. And because of that, many other similar shows are released around the same weekend to try and get that sweet money, including the likes of Impact Wrestling's United We Stand, NXT TakeOver, the Ring of Honor and New Japan Pro Wrestling Supercard. A lot of big events this year, so it's a good time to be a wrestling fan, but we're focusing more on WrestleMania, and we are currently recording this literally days before WrestleMania begins. So, because of the unique opportunity that arrives from the fact that it usually takes me several weeks over the course of a month to edit this, Sven, we are going to play a game where you try and predict the winners of all 16 matches on the card. And then, future you, or future me, is going to step in and tell you how right you were. Or, in some cases, how wrong you were.
I can just imagine, at the end of this, we should totally have it so that correct answers get the end of match bell and wrong answers get the buzzer.
Sorry, but you don't get a buzzer. You get a body slam. And speaking of which, if you get more than 10 predictions correct, you will get a positive sound effect of my choice. However, if you get less than 10 correct, you'll get a derogatory sound effect of my choice.
Oh god, knowing my taste, my negative sound effect is probably going to be, my name is Paul Heyman.
Thank you for giving me ideas. But yes, Sven the Crusader, the challenge has been set. So, let's start off now. First, your prediction for the Women's Battle Royal on the kickoff show.
This one's, okay. The Battle Royals are always hard to predict because basically there are a ton of people just competing for a trophy that really doesn't mean much. Hopefully that changes this year and they actually do something with the winner, but I'm not holding out much hope. Having said that, I've narrowed my choice for the Women's Battle Royal down to 3, and I'm going with the one that seems most right since they gave her a strong booking in the hype match for these two Battle Royals. Asuka.
If it makes you feel any better, Asuka was in the top 3, but nope, they gave it to Carmella. Here's hoping they actually do something with her this time. The Raw Tag Team Championships. The Revival versus Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder? Ooh.
See, this is the thing. Those two were a tag team long ago, and then they became jobbers, and apparently they're tossing them together again, which I'm not against, because I am actually invested in the story of Kurt Hawkins' losing streak ending. Call me a weirdo. But if this match happens, we'll see. I predict that they are the ones who beat the Revival, because WWE don't care about making the Revival look good, even as champions.
You're right. They don't want to make the Revival look good. Why would you want people to actually stay in your company when you could just freeze their contracts or humiliate them if they try and ask you to leave? Okay, next up, the Men's Battle Royal, also known as the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal.
Oh, this match. With the exception of Cesaro, nobody who's ever won this match has done anything important.
It also doesn't help that 2 of the guest entrants in here are people from Saturday Night Live, of all things. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a side prediction that's just, it's not gonna be a part of the actual results, but I'm going to predict that Michael Che and Colin Jost end up eliminating Braun Strowman for comedy points, because that is Braun Strowman's career now. But as for a winner, part of me wants to say Andrade, but I think he's going to go on to another feud, which I'll get into. So, with that out of the way, I'm going to hedge my bets and say Apollo Crews.
No, Braun Strowman won. After a comedy skit. Alright, next up, Cruiserweight Championship match. Buddy Murphy versus Tony Nese.
Buddy Murphy has been champion for a long-ass time now, And it's been a good reign, but I think now is a good closing point, so I'm gonna go ahead and predict, congratulations, Tony, you have abs.
You are correct. Next up, SmackDown Tag Team Championship. The Usos versus Ricochet and Aleister Black versus The Bar versus Rusev and Shinsuke Nakamura.
Okay, because as an aside, I'm almost positive that Ricochet and Aleister are going to be beaten by the War Raiders at TakeOver. I think this is where they're going to pick up a tag title, because the Usos, I've heard, are moving on to another storyline, and logically they have no reason to put the title on The Bar or Shinsuke and Rusev, who have apparently become jobbers again. So I'm going with the New Boys, the tag team that I've come around to, even though on paper it makes no sense and has no build-up.
A good guess, but that implies they had any plans of that tag team. No. The obvious professional answer was to have the Usos win the tag team championships again, so that they could lose it a week later to the Hardy Boys of all people. Yeah. Next up, the one that all the fans have been waiting for with bated breath and definitely have no complaints at all. Kurt Angle's retirement match against Baron Corbin.
Kurt Angle. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point the prediction is basically, is someone going to interrupt the match and save us from Baron Corbin?
Yeah, and if that's the case, I expect it's going to be John Cena in like a turnaround from last year where he was surprised by The Undertaker. But as it stands, I mean, come on, Kurt Angle. They've done nothing but make Baron Corbin look like a chump since he shaved his head.
Alright, 3 questions. Who, how, why? Who thought this was a good idea? How could you do this to Kurt Angle? And why are WWE so obsessed with Baron freaking Corbin? Alright, next up, The Miz, who is a face now, versus Shane McMahon in a Falls Count Anywhere match.
Honestly, this is one of those matches that can only have one ending, because Shane basically exists to do ridiculous stunts and lose WrestleMania matches. So, The Miz.
Well, you were half right in your prediction. Shane did fall off things. It's just that somehow he landed on top of Miz when they were both knocked out unconscious, and apparently that counts as a win. You can't see me, but I'm shrugging right now. The first time they're being defended on a pay-per-view, the Women's Tag Team Championship. Sasha Banks and Bayley, the current champions, against Beth Phoenix and Natalya, Nia Jax and Tamina, and the Iconics.
Okay, if anyone scores an upset, it's going to be the Iconics, which I have mixed feelings about because, I mean, they're a great tag team who are meant to be a tag team, but they annoy the living shit out of me. Having said that, I think Bayley and Sasha retain.
Oh, you were so close, Sven. So close, but you thought that the women's tag team titles deserved respect, and they needed to have prestige built up, but that's not what WWE thought. So they decided to swerve everyone and give it to the Iconics. And people wonder why Sasha Banks is currently trying to quit WWE. Next up, the United States Championship, Samoa Joe versus Rey Mysterio.
See, preface this by saying this match is a weird one because it may not happen. However, I think Rey's injury is a work, and it could go one of two ways. And it's almost 50-50, but I'm gonna say Joe retains. Because that would put him over big time, and Rey has said that he wants to do that.
Yep, Joe won in less than a minute. The guy's a beast, what can I say? Next up, Bobby Lashley versus Finn Balor for the Intercontinental Championship.
It should be noted, it should be prefaced before this that Lashley is going to be facing Demon King Finn Balor, who has never lost on the main roster once. So I predict that Lashley not only loses, he loses in 2 minutes.
Okay, but the gambling there. I can't give you the exact time, but it was pretty quick. Demon Finn Balor is still undefeated, which makes me wonder why he's not the Demon all the time. Next up, Triple H versus Batista in a no-holds-barred match with Triple H's career on the line.
Now, the safe bet would be to bet with Triple H because he's put on his career on the line like 10 times and always won. However, because of a rumor that Vince wants Batista to stay a while and have a certain match later on at SummerSlam, and plus the fact that Triple H has been injured several times lately, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that Batista wins and Triple H retires.
Alright, future me, what are the results? Nope, Triple H still has many fights left in his career, apparently, and made that perfectly clear by brutalizing Batista in a match that everyone kind of agreed went on for way, way too long. Next up, AJ Styles versus Randy Orton.
It seems pretty clear to me who's gonna come out on top. This is one of those matches where I literally did not care until this latest episode of SmackDown where they actually cut a really good promo war against each other. I'm gonna go with the obvious choice and say AJ because Randy has been built as one of the top heels lately.
Yeah, AJ won. There's really not much else to say about this match. Next up, Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre, aka the big dog who's just come back from cancer, versus the Scottish psychopath who's just come out of Baron Corbin's mid-card of evil.
Okay, I will say this. Of all the just randomly slapped together non-title matches, this one has to be my favorite, even though Roman is gonna win. I guarantee you Roman is gonna win. However, I think that I'm going to make a bold prediction and say they go like 20 minutes and absolutely set the place on fire because they're great.
Yep, Roman won in front of a crowd that was very, very tired and thus very, very dead, but hey, a win's a win, right? And now we're getting into the big stuff. The WWE Championship match, Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston.
Okay. I've gone back and forth on the 3 big matches on this card multiple times because WWE loves swerves, but I think I've carved it down to the 3 predictions that I'm comfortable with. Starting off, I think Kofi wins because WWE value him, and I mean, they set the story up perfectly that Daniel Bryan has become everything he ever hated. And I love that story, and the right conclusion to that is Kofi winning. So I think they're going to do it not just for that, but also for the good publicity points, which they've been sort of trying to build up by having their first black WWE champion.
Putting aside that WWE accidentally spoiled the results by not only showing the brand new belts, but also adding Kofi is the champion t-shirts on their store page during the actual match. This was still a fantastic match, and Kofi got the heartwarming victory we all hoped he would get. And next up, second from the top, the Universal Championship, Brock Lesnar versus Seth freaking Rollins.
As much as it saddens me to say this, Brock has recently signed a new contract, and we know that Vince has a massive boner for the MMA crossover.
Oh.
I think Brock retains. And I'm not as upset about that as I thought I would be because he's been caring more lately and getting to choose his opponents. And when he chooses his opponents, he's actually a good wrestler. But unfortunately, I think we're going to come out of WrestleMania still in the age of Brock.
Oh no. Oh, future version, please tell us he's wrong.
I'll get into this in the next one, but yeah, I had a feeling at least one of the big 3 matches would end in our favor, and this is the one I think will not. I also hope I'm wrong, by the way. I will eat the L if I have to.
I'm glad, Sven, because you were wrong. You were so wrong. And finally, the main event. The winner-take-all match for both the Raw Women's Championship and the SmackDown Women's Championship. Ronda Rousey versus Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch.
Oh, this story has been bonkers. Okay, so...
No. It's very easy, Sven. You just need to understand that Becky won the Royal Rumble, but she got injured, so as such, she was briefly suspended because she wouldn't see a doctor, but then she did see a doctor, and then they also saw a doctor, but then they said that she needed to apologize for attacking the WWE officials, and then Becky apologized for it, but then Vince McMahon decided that he didn't like her attitude, so he introduced Charlotte Flair, and then Becky had a match against Charlotte Flair in a pay-per-view in order to get the match that she was supposed to have in the first place, but then Charlotte, even though Becky was medically clear, decided to injure her again, and okay, when I say it out loud...
Believe it or not, I'm still hyped for this match because it needed to happen, and it's the right participants for a women's main event. But the lead-up has just been absolutely kooky dukes, to quote Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, in all seriousness, I do like all three women. They're all great in the roles they play. It's just, this is why you don't leave at least, like, what was it, 2 to 3 months before the main event is supposed to happen?
Oh, no. 4 months. They've been trying to build this feud for 4 months, and they've given Becky and Charlotte nothing else to do except screw Asuka. Still upsetty spaghetti about that. But, to get back to the prediction, as much as Charlotte is considered the Roman Reigns of the women's division, and as much as Ronda Rousey hates losing, this is the thing. Ronda's leaving, and despite what everyone else says, Becky is also a major company favorite. She sells more merchandise than literally everyone, and Vince loves money! So, I predict that Becky Lynch unifies the titles. It's the right ending, and, again, don't let WWE convince you that she is not beloved by them. Now, after having to get her nose broken to prove it to them.
And you're right. Becky is now both the Raw Women's Champion and the SmackDown Women's Champion. It is the result we all wanted. Maybe not the finish we wanted, though. I mean, really? Surprise roll-up? That's the big climax to a show that's been running for 8 hours? Really? And so with that, it's time for us to deliver the results. And I'm watching the results coming in now, and out of a grand total of 16 matches, Sven's results was... only 6 correct guesses. Well, it was a good effort, Sven, but to paraphrase Paul Heyman, trying to predict WWE...
It's like stepping into the ring with Brock Lesnar! You ain't got a chance!
For this, you have now been relegated to the mid-card for all eternity.
Oh, well, at least in 11 years I'll get a shot at Daniel Bryan.
Oh god, I wonder if he'll still be around. Actually, no, what am I talking about? WWE loves its veterans. Daniel Bryan will be around until he's 80.
His body permitting, the poor broken man.
I mean, we actually do have a conversation about this, but I believe Vince McMahon is going to research into necromancy so that Undertaker's story of being an undead mortician is going to actually go from wrestling storyline to reality, and he's just going to be dragged in front of WrestleMania just going, Vince, stop. I need to rest. Let me die. Let me die. And that brings this section to a close. Like I said, this is just a bit of fun considering the unique opportunity we were in, and I'd rather have this than just be a prediction video that's going to be out of date in literally a couple of days' time.
Yeah. This is basically our way around doing a WrestleMania review show, because that would take us 14 hours. The pay-per-view itself is going to take 8 hours, and I don't know how I'm going to survive Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. We actually have an episode of Flip the Mic covering last year's WrestleMania, which featured both me, Sven, and MVL. But I ran out of time, and it was such a big show to edit.
Yeah, and this is the thing. That show was 7 hours. This WrestleMania is somehow longer. I can just see I'm going to go through an entire liter bottle of tea by the time the show is done.
And that's all we have time for. Until next time, I've been the Jonin Monkey.
And I've been Sven the Crusader. Beware the Lich King, Vince.